Hey guys, welcome to the channel today. Um, Thank you all for watching my last video. I hope you've been enjoying the strategies I've been sharing. Um, Today I'll be sharing quite an educational content for all of us farmers out there, right? So one big issue we always worry about as a farmer or as a liquidity pool provider is impermanent loss, right? So today I'm going to expatiate on that matter, right? And answer the question, should you really worry about impermanent loss, right? Like, should you really worry about it? And if you have no idea what impermanent loss is, no problem, right? I'll dive deep into everything and give you a proper and share as much knowledge as I can. All right, stay tuned. All right, so before we start, right, let's consider a pop quiz, right? Which of the following would have been profitable versus just holding if taken 6 months ago and held to today? And as by today, I mean on the 27th of December 2021, right? Option A, ETH, a pool of ETH, a liquidity pool of ETH and AVE at 30% APR. Option B, liquidity pool of ETH and Phantom at 50% APR. Option C, a liquidity pool of ETH and USDC at 20% APR. Option D, a liquidity pool of AVAX USDC at 100%, while option E is AVAX USDC at 250% APR, right? So before we go any further, um, go down to the comment and drop your answers. Which of these you think would be profitable? Would it be better you just held on to this, or which would have been profitable, holding on to this or providing liquidity in all these pools, right? Drop your answers in the comment section, and by the end of this video, we'll find out which answer was correct. All right. So first and first, right? A definition. What is impermanent loss, right? Impermanent loss is the relative loss you incur. Impermanent loss is the relative loss you incur from providing tokens in a liquidity pool within an AMM versus just holding them for hopeful appreciation, right? So, uh, the loss you probably may or may not incur when you stake your ETH, you stake your Phantom, you stake your Luna in a liquidity pool, right? Hoping that okay, the APR is massive, right? So, but what happens if Phantom moons, right? Phantom goes to the moon. How much would you have lost? So that's impermanent loss, right? So there's always impermanent loss, right? The only question is if the yield you are given as an incentive to provide liquidity in the pool will outweigh the impermanent loss, right? So it's always going to be there. So the question is, are you getting your 83,000% APY, APR, like Wonderland? If you are, then you're probably not going to be worried about impermanent loss. So next, there's no such thing as impermanent gain, right? A phrase you sometimes see thrown around. The best case scenario to liquid, a best case scenario in providing liquidity, right? Not counting yield, is that the ratio of the tokens you are providing liquidity to stays the same, and you have 0% impermanent loss. Any divergence and you have impermanent loss, right? There's always going to be, it's either you lose or it stays the same. And the best case scenario will be that the coins don't move, or you are trading stable coins, right? If you're trading stable coins, then no impermanent loss for you, right? Or you're trading to you're trading a coin that is pegged to a coin. Example, you're trading Tomb and Phantom, right? Tomb is pegged to Phantom, right? You probably will get a very minimal impermanent loss there, right? So if you're a long time holder of Phantom, check out my video on how to earn 227% APY on Phantom using this strategy where there's almost no impermanent loss. Now, so that's how liquidity pools on automatic market maker works, right? So you might be asking yourself, what's an automatic market maker, right? So let's check out what it means, right? An automatic market maker allows digital assets to be traded without permission and automatically by using liquidity pool instead of a traditional market of buyers and sellers, right? Instead of using, instead of having, instead of waiting for people that want to sell, to, I'm looking for people that want to buy, right? You are going to be selling to a contract, right? The contract, the smart contract is there already, and you're just selling to that contract. So whenever someone is coming, they're buying from the contract. So it's you and the contract that have a business, while the buyer is between the buyer and the contract, right? You're not waiting for people. That's why it's always available. So the value of a liquidity pool position will always average towards the worst performing of the two tokens. What do I mean by this? It doesn't matter if token A and token B both go up, right? Or both go down. A goes up and B goes down, or vice versa. If the ratio between them changes at all, if there's any change at all, your liquidity pool value will average towards the poorer performer, right? The one that's not going up as high as the other, that's where the value of your liquidity pool will be averaging towards. Obviously, this is a major thing to consider when evaluating yield farming opportunities, right? So you don't just ape into any farming opportunity you run across, right? You always have to consider the potential of impermanent loss. Luckily, there are some great calculators out there we can use to gauge the risk of impermanent loss relative to farming incentive, right? Um, a great calculator example is dailydefi.org/tools/impermanent loss calculator. It's probably the most commonly used one, and it does factor in, though it does not factor in yield, right? It does not factor in the APR. So this is what it looks like, right? Impermanent loss calculator, you put in the price here, put in the price here, put in future prices, and you see that if token A was $1 and token B was $1 at initial prices, future prices token A became $2 and token B remained $1, you have an impermanent loss of 5.2%, right? So if $500 was invested in token A and $500 was invested in token B, if $500 of token A and 500 token B were held, you would have 500 token A, 500 token B, right? Value if held would be $1,500. If 500 of token A and 500 token B were provided as liquidity pool, we would have 353.55 token A and 707.5 token B in the liquidity pool. The value for providing liquidity pool will be $1,414.21. So you see, sometimes you can lose by providing liquidity pool. That the loss you experienced here, right, is the impermanent loss, right? So that's what I'm trying to explain. Now let's let's try something, right? So as the calculator shows us, if we provide liquidity pool to two tokens that are both worth $1 and token A eventually gets to $2 and token B stays at $1, a divergence of 2x, impermanent loss will be 5.72%. Now if the tokens go from $1 to $5, $1 to $5 or $1 to $0.5, the divergence of 10x, the impermanent loss would be 42.5%. That's massive, right? The question is whether the yield you get from as an incentive from providing liquidity pool would outweigh the impermanent loss and let us generate meaningful profits. So let's get back to the pop quiz example from the start. So, right? Again, so this was the quiz we started with, right? Which of the following would have been profitable versus just holding if taken 6 months ago and held until today, right? A, ETH AVE at 30%, right? ETH Phantom, ETH USDC, ETH AVAX USDC, and AVAX USDC at 250%. All right, so if you guessed A, C, and E were the profitable ones, where farming was worth it, you're right. Now let's break them down one by one. So option A, ETH AVE at 30% APR. The pair went from ETH initial price was 2,279.35, while AVE initial price was 250.66, right? ETH final price at that time was $4,075, while AVE final price was $279.04, right? $1,000 split between them would be worth $1,450.51 today, right? if you did not provide any liquidity pool with it, right? Now, $1,410 if you provide a liquidity pool. So here you'd have had a loss of 2.74% impermanent loss, right? But if you consider the yield from your pool, you would have had $1,591. So you'd have made a profit. So it's always important to consider how much yield you are getting if it will allow for a profit. So B, ETH and Phantom at 50% APR. The pair went from 2279 slash 0.24 to 4075 and 2.39, right? $1,000 split would be worth $5,873. Wow. Now today, if you did not provide a liquidity pool with it, if you provided a liquidity pool, it will be worth 4,200. That's a 28% impermanent loss. And with the yield at that time, you would have had 4,871, right? So even with the yield, if the yield is there enough to cover the impermanent loss, you would still be lost. You still be in the red, right? You'd have lost money. Now, ATH USDC 20% APR, right? If you did not provide any liquidity with it, you'd have had 1,393. If you provided liquidity, you'd have had 133.09, right? So that's a 4.8% impermanent loss. Now with the 20% yield, you'd have made profit, right? Option D, AVAX USDC 100% APR pair went from 11.98 slash $1 to 1115.33 slash $1. $1,000 split would be worth $5,300 if you did not provide liquidity, and $3,003 if you provided liquidity. Now with the yield, you'd have had 4,128. Still, you'll be at a loss. And the final pair, AVAX USDC at 250%, right? It will be worth 5,300 if you did not provide liquidity, 3,102 if you provided liquidity, a 41% impermanent loss. But then, because of the higher APR, you would have had 5,692 with the yield. So whenever considering a farm, right, you have to consider the APR and you have to consider impermanent loss. The APR has to be higher than your potential impermanent loss, right? You don't just ape into a farm. You have to know your price target. When you know your price target, you go to the impermanent loss calculator and realize that, okay, if it gets to this price, I'm getting out of this farm, right? How much impermanent loss would I experience if it got to this price? From that price, you then calculate from the yield and say, okay, with this yield, I should be able to make profit, right? Is that clear? Right. Okay, so Aave, ETH Aave and ETH USDC were profitable despite the low APRs because the ratio between their prices stayed so static. ETH and Phantom, modest APR, couldn't overcome the impermanent loss that arose from Phantom money. The same applied with AVAX USDC at 100%, even though 200%, though 250% was able to overcome the impermanent loss. This goes to show that if you are super bullish on a token, you may want to stick to single-sided opportunities instead of providing liquidity pool with it. You never know what will happen in the future, and therefore I think liquidity pools is still a fantastic strategy if it has sufficient APR. So a suggestion would be to mix up the strategies, right? Provide some liquidity pools as well as single-sided farming, staking, and lending, etc. This way, you end up generating substantial returns no matter what the token ends up doing. You can also try pairs that you can also try pairs token that behave. You can also try pair tokens that behave similarly. For instance, ETH BTC or ETH Aave. You definitely want to remember that the APR you're getting is a year of APR though. So often it's better to look at the yield you earn daily or monthly instead. Also, a note on the maths, right? There are many ways to calculate all of this. His calculation did not include auto compounding like you would get if you use the wonderful Beefy Dot Finance, right? I'm a big fan of Beefy Dot Finance. I have a whole lot stakes in there. Um, so he also applied the 6 month APR, 6 month APR 50% of the stated APR to the midway point of the LP change in value versus applying it to the end value since the token prices go up gradually. So for this, I just use the DeFi calculator plus the above APR multiplier. Finally, if you're interested in yield farming plus similar, follow this awesome account. Subscribe to the channel if you want more strategies, if you want to learn more about DeFi, if you want strategies to grow your crypto using crypto, right? Follow my account. Subscribe to the channel, drop a like button, comment your suggestions, comment what you think I can do better, comment what you think I can learn better. Credits to this video goes to rektdiomedes. Please follow him on Twitter. He's the boss. He's the main man. He came up with this strategy and this trade, and shout out to him. All right, guys. Thanks for staying with us. Thanks for watching. Subscribe again, guys. Come on, subscribe and hit that like button. If you like this kind of content, hit that like button. If you like this type of content, hit that like button. All right. See you next video. Bye.